Since I'm here in LA, I figured I'd catch up with two famed political strategists who live here. Bob Shrum, who's worked with the likes of Al Gore and John Kerry, and Mike Murphy, who most recently ran Jeb Bush's super PAC, Right to Rise. We started out talking about what to expect from this final stretch of the general election.
Traditionally in politics, Labor Day is the start of the general election. This summer has felt like the general election started a long time ago, right? So does Labor Day now mean anything?
Yeah, I think it's the end of the election.
Right.
I think we're going to look back and say that this period from the Republican convention, Democratic convention, the aftermath, the Trump tweets, the attacks, his ridiculous performance this week on immigration, first in Mexico and then in Phoenix. I think we're going to look back on it and say that's when the election was decided.
Right.
He didn't have much of a chance to begin with, I don't think, but this was a really fateful period.
Do you think the election's over, basically?
I do.
And you?
Well, I've called him a zombie for a long time, politically dead, yet still moving.
Yes, but you called him that back when he was competing with all of his the people in the Republican Party, including your guy,
well,
and you were wrong then.
Context, I said he'll never be president of the United States. He looked that up.
But you used the zombie thing back when he was still very much alive.
No. I'm going to fight you on this because I used the zombie thing because I thought he'd never make it to president. I didn't think he'd win the nomination, but you never know. Yeah. I'm sure he won't win the presidency.
I take your point. I think it's right. These elections do get decided earlier and earlier. That was true in the 12 cycle. It's probably true in this cycle. A lot of stuff gets set in stone. Is it like beyond the debates? Is there in the post-Labor Day period, is there any kind of meaning to that? That like, well, we turn the corner and now there's going to be a different character to the campaign. There's going to be a different texture to it.
Well, first, it's clear Trump is never going to pivot. I hate using the word. Yeah. Trump is going to be Trump. He's going to keep tweeting. He's going to keep going off his prompter script. By the way, he is a zombie when he reads a prompter. I mean, he really doesn't know how to do it. Right. So he knows it, the crowd knows it, and he goes off and says something crazy. He needs the debates. He desperate, if there's anything he needs or could help him, would be that first debate. Because he has to pass the threshold of acceptability as a potential president and a potential commander-in-chief. I don't think he can do it. I think the debates actually could make his situation worse. For Lord's sake, his idea of preparing is to sit around with Chris Christie or Rudy Giuliani and Laura Ingraham and
Roger Ailes, Steve Bannon. Like what a that's a fun kind of Sunday brunch crowd, right?
He doesn't want to practice.
Yeah, Ailes could help him, but what I think will happen is Trump will keep doing what Trump has done. He will react to the daily news cycle and try increasingly maniacal things to try to make himself feel he's doing better in the polls, which are his big touchstone of what he thinks is going on in the public polls. Right. So he will just keep spinning along, ricocheting between ideas like this crazy trip to Mexico.
There's a big moment, the immigration speech and the trip to Mexico. It's a kind of a landmark thing. This is a key issue for him. They previewed it in a variety of kind of complicated ways, but they made a big deal out of it. This was not something that kind of was a spontaneous moment. This isn't some, they planned this speech, right? And then he went and gave it. Why? I don't understand if he was going to end up in exactly the same place that he always was. Why did this become such a big deal?
Because there are people inside his campaign who did want him to soften. There are people inside his campaign who understood that he has no path to victory unless he moves on this issue, unless he gets some Latino votes, and unless, by the way, he reassures college-educated voters white voters who tend to vote Republican, that he's reasonable on issues like this. So I think they went out, they spun the press, they said he's going to soften. He even
he said it.
Yeah, he said
he
it.
Suggested it, hinted it.
He suggested it after they planted the idea. And I assume there was a huge fight inside the campaign, and Trump's id won. But his id always wins.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a mistake of the Trump campaign to think there's any strategy or any plan. There is the daily whim of Donald Trump. So you have these advisors who will talk to the media, which is built to receive this kind of information. Oh, here's our clever narrative of change.
We love a process story, us in the press.
We're going to shift the website to all pictures of soccer, whatever that crap is. But the media is trained to kind of bark at those cookies. Trump, he's not on the same frequency. He's not checking with his advisors, what's the plan today? He's trying to figure out where to take the plane, the toy. And so he's out doing whatever he feels like. Yeah, wherever he feels like going. So there is no them there. There's just Trump and these people flittering around him who are talking to reporters.